So when we were chasing Mark around, Mark ollied up a curb, and then
Hmm.
all of a sudden I ollie up the curb behind him because I was already good enough to ollie up the curb, but I was nervous.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then Mark Chinese ollies down 4 stairs off a crack. I eat it because I couldn't ollie the 4 stairs. I
Yeah,
don't know what, and I just run down the stairs. I pick up my board and I keep chasing Mark
yeah,
Gonzalez through
yeah,
the city. But it seemed like really big wheels he was riding, and they were multicolor. And he
yeah.
just like ollied up this curb and just went dunk down 4 stairs. And I was like, what is this? But that's the skating. Like that was street skating, right?
Yeah,
Like it tells you
yeah, yeah,
what you
yeah.
have to work with,
Right, right,
and then
right.
you create with the material you have. That was that
Yeah.
Mondo trip.
How do we start? Go
Okay,
ahead.
so I only know you as Saro. I don't even know what the hell your last name is.
I'll say my last name. It's
Yeah.
Tigrarian. I'm Armenian.
Armenian. Okay.
Yeah.
So I figured like Saro, I've never ever heard.
Saro, yeah. It's S-A-R-O. It's
Yeah.
spelled the way you pronounce
Right.
it, Saro.
Okay, so I will also say we are in Union City, New Jersey,
Right.
which is just on the other side of the Hudson River. You
Right.
could probably throw a rock at the Empire State Building. You got Jersey City, Weehawken, Hoboken,
Right.
and what's up here, North Bergen?
Yeah, it's
Next.
actually Weehawken, then in Jersey City, and then it's West New York, and then
Right.
North Bergen is like
Right.
back behind me and up all the way
Right.
over there.
Okay. Growing up here, you said you grew up across the street
Yeah,
from
right
this
across the street
school,
from
right?
this
And
Washington
this is where
school.
you
Yeah.
grew up skating.
For the most part,
for
yeah.
The most part.
For the most part, yeah.
So, and this is called Washington School. right?
Washington Grammar School, yeah.
Okay, so we're in front of Washington Grammar School. How does a kid get exposed to skateboarding in Union City, New Jersey?
All right, so for me, the way it happened was back in the late 70s, skateboarding, I would see it was popular on TV,
Yeah.
right? And then there was a martial arts movie that I saw with Chuck Norris called A Force of One,
Okay.
and the first guy that came out was a skateboarder. So on those classic television shows, once in a while they'll show like a skateboarder.
Yeah.
If he rolls into Melrose Sporting Goods with that envelope in his back pocket and rolls out with a package of Christmas goodies, then you're on the way to your first major bust, rookie.
So I begged my mom from a department store called Woolworth, which is
Yeah,
out
yeah,
of
yeah.
business, to get me a skateboard.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I ever had a skateboard. But there was no one that skated around
Right.
here.
Okay.
Absolutely no one.
Okay, so what year is this again? Like you
Late
think-
70s.
Late 70s.
Mid to late 70s.
Okay. When I think of you and your crew, I think of Felix. And when I found out Felix was from New Jersey, I was like, what? That's
You didn't know,
insane.
right?
Skateboarding between New York and New Jersey, and one of my friends from Jersey, who I went to high school with, is one of the only people who still skateboards from back in that time period.
Yeah.
Coco,
Is originally from SF.
originally from SF,
Moved here.
moved here.
Yeah, that's how we got to know him.
How do you meet those guys?
Sometime around grammar school, maybe 82, 83, my friend Caesar invited me to play Manhunt. And then this is where I saw Felix for the first time. Him and Felix lived around the corner from each other, which
Okay.
is like 6 blocks away.
Okay.
Pre-skating though.
Pre-skating. Okay,
Pre-skating.
okay, that's what I was gonna ask.
Then high school hits, freshman year, and I played a lot of tennis. I tried out, made it on a team. Felix was there. Felix doesn't remember this though.
Okay.
So we played tennis on the same team, but like again, we didn't get to know each other, right? It was in 85. That kid Caesar
Yeah.
had a skateboard, and I was leaving high school. This is junior year.
Yeah.
And I see my friend Caesar skating, and I said, Caesar, what are you doing? You're skateboarding. And he showed me his board. It was a Zorlak double cut, flat, no concave.
Amazing.
And he showed it to me. And then, long story short, that's when I picked it up. Caesar invited me to skate the ramp that they had by Felix's house.
Okay, wait. This is a different ramp than the one that's down here.
Yeah. Okay. This is like, it all comes to here.
Yeah.
After skating 2 weeks there, and it was on an off street where cars would once in a while come by, then we got to move the ramp.
Okay, so it's just a jump ramp, maybe?
It was just a small ramp.
Yeah.
I don't even think it had transition.
Okay.
And we were just like learning. These guys were like skating before me, and they were skating. Felix was skating vert before me because the vert ramp was up already.
Okay, so Felix is already kind of like
Vert skater,
seasoned.
street skater,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
for like a couple years
Yeah, yeah,
before
yeah.
I did. 85 junior year, 85, 86, they showed me that little ramp that they had. After skating there for 2 weeks, and then once in a while a car gets through, I told my friend Caesar, and Felix was there too, and other guys, other skaters. I said, bring this ramp here to Washington School. And then that's how this whole started.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
from like a good 5 years.
Yeah. This is your main spot.
Main spot.
Yeah.
You don't get kicked out, and it was like
The ramp lives in here. It stays in here overnight.
No, we couldn't leave it
Yeah,
in here.
the
We
ramp.
did that
Yeah, yeah.
because then the janitors would come and trash it.
Yeah, got you.
So next to my property, I have an alleyway. So we used to store
Sure.
all the ramps inside my alleyway and actually
Full animal
build.
chin,
yeah.
put them on the boards, bring them over.
Yeah, and then actually build it in front of my house
Yeah, yeah.
because I take out an extension cord,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Build the jump ramp and then skate it here. So we built jump ramps, wall ramps,
So sick.
and rail sliders. This place becomes a hot spot.
Yeah.
85 to
And now
90.
you're skating here with Felix, but Coco's not here yet?
Coco eventually came in like 86. We
Sure
all
enough.
ran into
Yeah,
each
yeah.
other. He heard about the jump ramp at Felix's house at first, and then here,
yeah.
and then that's how that whole started.
Okay.
So much went down here, you have no idea.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, I can only imagine.
The same thing with the banks and all the
Yeah, yeah,
contests,
yeah.
and then we would get together. It was literally like a family. We would get together and just go from like spot to skate, and then we'd meet up at an ESA contest and skate. That's what we did. These guys put me on Dogtown, right? And after Dogtown, I had a stack of Dogtown boards.
Wait, hold on. Who's these guys?
Bruno, Rod, and Jeremy.
How do they put you on Dogtown when Dogtown is Red Dog and...
Okay, so that started because Jeremy Henderson was skating for Dogtown without a pro model. When Bruno and Rod started Shut, they were considering turning someone pro, and they said, let's turn Jeremy pro.
Right.
So this is the way Bruno is explaining it to me.
Yeah.
They turned Jeremy pro. Jeremy tells Jim Muir, I'm not going to skate for you guys anymore. Well, Jim Muir said, well, find somebody for us.
You're Jeremy's replacement?
Hold on. I was the first guy.
Yeah.
So the way Bruno explained it to me back then, and I want to thank Bruno,
Sure.
Rod, and Jeremy for
Of course.
this. I was the street guy. Mark was the vert guy. You know who Mark is?
Wait.
Mark Podgorski. That Mark was the vert guy, and I was the street guy
Okay.
in '89.
Yeah.
Right?
Because Dogtown is heavy in '89 too.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heavy, super heavy.
Right. So by '90, Jim Muir actually, because I'm in and out of the city, I'm
Yeah.
not in the city.
Yeah.
Jim Muir was talking to Bruno about finding people that actually lived in New York and skated there every day.
Yeah.
I can't be there every day.
Yeah.
So that's when they picked up Richie Rojas,
Yeah, Richie.
Obed Rios,
Yeah.
Ivan Perez,
Jesus.
and I think Big Jim got on towards like the tail end of it.
And at a certain point, I'm sure they were all shut, kind of like
Yeah.
flow or...
I mean, we all skated together,
Totally.
you know? I got to know
Yeah.
Bruno and Rod, and
Yeah,
Shut had started, and it was Bruno, Rod, Jeremy, Alyasha,
Yeah.
Wiley, Pete, all
Sure,
those guys,
sure.
that whole crew.
Yeah.
And we got to know each other, and then that's how that relationship all started, and then we were always with each other,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It was like a family, that's
Yeah.
what it was like.
That's freaking fascinating. So how long does the Dogtown thing last?
About 3 years until 91. The same year Dogtown went under was the same year Shut went under.
Yeah.
And then when they went out of business, I personally didn't bother trying to find another sponsor. I just skated with my
you kept
friends.
skating, yeah.
Yeah, I
'Cause
kept
one
on
of
skating.
the craziest things I remember you doing was ollieing off that wall into that brick bank. It's by the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel.
Oh, yeah, the
Dude,
in RB's video.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
That is
Thanks.
Because back then, that was kind of like, people didn't really do that. And that was like, well, I remember when I had heard that you did that.
That was in 99, yeah, I
was
remember.
like, dude, that is fucking crazy to do. Because
Thanks,
you
I
stood up
appreciate
there,
that.
it was like pretty crazy.
I like giving credit where credit is due. Jason Massey tried it,
Yeah.
and when he tried it, he cracked his board. He didn't go back. But I was at the right place and at the right time.
Yeah, yeah.
RB and Red were
Yeah.
there, and they shot a
Yeah,
photo, and
that's
it was in the video.
Okay, so let's jump ahead. This is a far jump, and I apologize for this, but the reason we're here is because you posted footage of Mark Gonzales skating in Manhattan in 1987. Essentially, what it is it's the raw footage of the Don Hoffman filmed outtakes or footage that ended up in Mondo Vision. Gonzo Goes to New York City. So when I saw that, granted that some of that footage is in Death Bowl to Downtown.
Wait for the doorman to go in, run up and start doing whatever. And then Gonz came and visited Jeremy Henderson, you know, and Gonz was like, I can grind this. And everyone was like, no, you can't.
One more time and I'll make it.
They have that. They got some of that footage from Don Hoffman, But what you were posting
They didn't have.
is more stuff that they didn't have. And when I saw this, I was like, how the hell do you have this? Because I told you, I attempted to call Don Hoffman, and I actually spoke with him, but he was like, you can't have this footage, like, this is treasured stuff. You post this footage, and I'm like, my brain starts to melt, because now, not only do you have the 8th Street rail footage, which I guess I'll point this out, like I said before, this is the first time anyone on planet Earth grinds a handrail on a skateboard.
Yeah, I know.
So you have the outtakes of that, but you also have Mark board sliding the 9 stair at the banks, which I'm assuming that's the first time the 9 stair had ever been board slid as well.
I think so. Yeah, I don't remember.
I can't imagine anyone.
I don't remember
coming,
anyone before that.
Yeah.
No. Afterwards.
Yeah, afterwards. But he also ollies down the 9 stair, and for back then, that's a freaking hefty ass ollie.
Yeah.
So tell me how you get that footage.
All right. From what I remember, Felix did tell me back then that he was skating with Gonz in the city.
Okay.
Okay, so he skated like 23rd Street banks.
Yeah.
And then someone shot a photo of Felix doing a frontside rock and roll at the 23rd Street banks. Remember the banks with the highway
of course.
divider?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what I remember, and then he said something otherwise, because you were asking me on Instagram and Felix, how did it happen? I thought I got it back then because Felix got a copy of it back then, but then Felix said something otherwise. He said that when he was living with Mark and Jason, that's when he got it. Then maybe I got it after that.
Okay.
So when he was living with Mark and Jason, could have been like 88 or 89, because Felix moved out of here to Florida around 88.
Okay.
And then he would periodically visit.
Yeah.
And then he was traveling around because after he left Shut, he got on World Industries.
Yeah.
So it's quite possible maybe that's when he got it, and then I got it after that. But I thought I saw it back then.
Yeah.
That's what I thought I saw. But
which you might have.
I may have,
yeah.
but I could have sworn he had a copy of it. Maybe I saw it back then, and I didn't make a copy back then until maybe a couple years later, because I used to visit him in Florida.
Okay. Or maybe you just saw Mondo Vision and were no.
No.
Okay.
I saw that raw footage before Mondo.
Okay, so Felix at some point moves to Florida.
Right.
And you're saying you used to go visit him in Florida.
Yeah.
Anyhow, somehow you get a copy of Felix. Now, what Felix told me, or I think this is, I don't know if you told me it or the Felix version or whatever, but basically, from what I understand, Felix is living with Mark and Jason, or visiting them, staying at the house. I had heard that Mark has a car, and Jason and Felix didn't have a car, and Mark went out somewhere with his car, and Felix threw a tape in and dubbed the tape, brought it back to Jersey. Somehow you get it and you dub it, and that's how this thing exists.
That I don't know.
Okay.
That California story, I have no
Now,
idea.
how do you end up staying at Mark Gonzalez' house in Huntington Beach?
So this is interesting. There's so many layers to this. You can look up an old video. I believe it's Phoenix Am. Phoenix Am was kind of like our Am finals.
Yeah.
And like going into the Am finals, I was like ranked #1. So there was like a little buzz on me.
Okay.
And I go out to Phoenix. Mike's out to Phoenix a week early because the next week is the pro contest. Mark's out in Phoenix a week early because the next weekend is a pro contest. And then he's with Jason Lee.
Okay.
And Jason Lee rolls over to me and goes, "Oh, I heard you're the best on the East. I'm the best on the West." And he did a 360 flip in my face. And I went, "Ooh." I go, He wasn't lying.
Yeah.
So there was this energy there between us that we all were like in this mix together. And Mike was kind of Dune and I were kind of like his proteges. Chris Pastris and I were kind of like his proteges, as Jason was to Mark. And they had kind of been brewing a little thing where they were going to start a company called Blind, because it was the opposite of Vision.
Right.
And it was supposed to be Mike, Mark, Jason, Chris, and I, and maybe even Steve Ortega was somewhere around the outskirts of it. Oh, no. That was Mike and Matt Hensley's company. That didn't happen. So the original nucleus right there was we were going to create Blind together. So there was this real big energy.
Sure.
And then during that time, Mike starts dating Ann, who is Jason's ex.
Yeah.
So first easy stay for me in California was going to be with Mike. But because Mike was staying with Ann, and that whole thing was a little weird to be the guy who always wants to go skate, and he wanted to smooch a bit, I was
Yeah.
kind of like, it was easier for me to stay with the other homies.
Yeah.
So I move over to Mark's house. He has an empty room, which is his brother Frank, I believe, if I remember correctly. I'm so old now, bro. I just turned 54. And that's like, God, I don't even know how many years ago. That's like, I can't do the math. Like 30 something years ago? I don't know.
Would you say you're at Mark's and Jason's in Huntington in 88, 89, or is it?
Yeah, it was 88, 89 because my AM finals was 89. The end of 88, 89, I believe, if I'm correct. I have to go to my mom's house and look at trophies. So I'm staying in Frank's room, and Mark has all these VHS tapes in the living room. And Mark has stuff to do. He's pro, he's an adult, although he's just basically my age. But I'm immature because I don't have anything to do but skate.
Yeah.
And then Jason was just starting to get things busy, and Jason lives there most of his life in the area. So
Yeah.
Jason has stuff to do. So oftentimes I'd be sitting at the house, like going through all the videos, and then there's just piles of videos. So as I'm going through other videos, I pop into one video and it has the ticker tape,
Yeah.
which I guess basically it was Mark's tape to be like, yes, no, which now I understand that.
Sure.
But back then, I'm just like, this thing's messing up my view.
Yeah.
But I'm watching all the stuff. And then the funny thing is, depending on which tape you have, this is going to sound crazy. And when you speak to old people, we usually sound crazy because it is crazy. The first Poley is me in Washington Square Park on the bent pole, and it's in that footage. And they filmed it, and I got to watch it. But it was never going to be used for anything because I never rode for anything. So all my stuff on the Jersey barrier, all that stuff just died, or it's dead somewhere on some tapes. But somehow that Poley was on that tape. So I go into Jason's room and I borrow his VCR, I wire the whole thing, and I just dubbed the tape.
Wow.
And then I don't know how much more I dubbed, but I just basically wanted to get my Poley, and I just let it run. And then that was the tape that then later came home with me.
I'm just curious now. Do you remember bringing the tape back to Jersey and handing it to Sorrow and him being like,
No, I don't think he even taped it when I lived in Jersey. I think he taped it when he came to visit me in California.
oh, okay.
Or he may have taped it when he came to visit me in Miami. It was one of the two. You know what? I'm almost sure it was in Miami. Sorrow dubbed that at my house in Miami when he came down to visit.
Do you remember dubbing the tape from Felix?
Yes, I do.
Okay. How did you do that?
VHS.
VHS. Okay.
Yeah, back then. Yeah.
Now, what I'm super fascinated with, and I talked to all kinds of people from skateboarding to like graffiti writers, whatever, and a lot of people have a hard time holding on to physical objects from their childhood.
That's true.
But how do you end up hanging on to a VHS dub of this footage? Are you a hoarder?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm a minimalist.
Okay.
The things that mean a lot to me, I kept.
Yeah.
It blew my mind. It blew my mind back then. I
Yeah.
knew the importance of it back then. That's
Yeah.
how come I kept it.
Yeah.
But then, it's the same thing with Brian skating Grand Slam.
Yeah.
It meant something to me, so
Yeah.
I kept it. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? And it was the same thing with me and my friends,
Yeah.
like Hector and Alex and all those guys I grew up skating with here.
Yeah.
I kept it because obviously
Sure,
it
it's
meant something to
personal.
me,
Yeah, yeah.
And when you started skating, you fell in love with it. It was the passion that got you into it.
Yeah.
And then the camaraderie that you had with your friends, it was the same thing with me and my group of my friends too. That's how come I held on to all those pics and videos,
Yeah.
And then I remember saying to myself, what am I supposed to do with all this stuff? And then my mom ended up in a nursing home, and I tried getting myself on Instagram, and it was like too much for me to deal with.
Yeah.
So I was going to the nursing home like 2-3 times a week. The last 3 years of her life was at a nursing home.
Yeah.
So afterwards, like a year later after she passed away, that's when I got myself on Instagram and I was figuring it out. And I said, man, I got all these like old pics, videos. I'm gonna document everything, what I personally experienced with me and my friends, and then just post it, and hopefully, somebody appreciates it. And obviously you appreciate it, so thanks, I appreciate that.
that's cool.
Keep it on this area here. Is he coming in?
Yeah. See you back to the alley. Get warmed up. Is this better?
Yeah. Kid.
Just speak blue foot, Mark. Blue foot. Can we get you in the video? Can you stand right there? Can you stand right there for just a second? Yeah, just stand right on the corner. Just for a second. Just smile on the camera, just hang out, you know. Just want to get him flying over. Let's go, just, you know, just hang out.
He's gonna have to step back. Where's he going?
Gonna fly right, just relax. Don't even touch it. You can also.
Damn. I think you made your...
That side, Mark. That side. Wherever you're most comfortable, all right?
Just let me know so I can get the damn shit.
Yeah, go.
Okay, go. Go. Okay, Stuart. All right.
Oh, yeah, all the way through. Whoa! I'll get it. Wait, you do it, let me all the way through. All right.
Oh, let me... Wait, you gotta cut all these...
Get that? You want me to hold the thing? You get that full thing? Let me hold on. What do you think of it?
Outrageous.
We just got a... Did you slide down that thing right there? Yeah, slide right there. Yeah, that was nuts. Want to try it again? Hey, stop. That was so rad. Cut that out. Nothing. What's up? Oh, just having fun. I know that for what. Look, my name Kareem Ice, y'all know. See, if you take me, I know what you want to do. You're gonna have to feel me too. These guys are like the best in the world, though. Well, I'm old. Nah, man, I'm a They got some shit out there in L.A. They got some shit, man, steeper than this, man. Can't even fuck with it. Oh, these bakes are rad, huh? You like you? A lot of people man. You like them.
Like I said, when I talked to Don Hoffman, he was like, oh, I'm saving that footage for like a documentary film or whatever. But you gave the footage to Mark way back when, and then Felix got it, you know what I'm saying?
And I got it, yeah.
But Don Hoffman probably has way more crazier shit.
Probably does, yeah.
And he might even have more stuff that you don't have.
I'm sure he does.
You know, like from those sessions, because Mark was here for like, I mean, I've heard stories. I heard that Jeremy filmed a lot of it because Don just didn't have the technical skill to be on
You mean
stage.
Jeremy Henderson?
Jeremy Henderson.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. In fact, I want to say Jeremy might have even told me that. Or maybe it was a conversation between Jeremy and Eli that I had heard.
Don and I had the beta camera, and he was afraid to go out of the car because the camera was 60 or 80 grams, so he was like terrified to go anywhere in New York with it. And I'm like, fuck it. Getting out of the I filmed the downhill out of the window and the Harlem sequences. I filmed the downtown at night with fucking crackheads all around me. Like, no one was bum rushing us, dude.
Yeah.
Different at night downtown. I shot lines. I told Mark, all the way up the 3, do the round banked pyramid all the way over the hip of the pyramid, go back on all the way down the 3, and with the bus stop, that big steep wall angle that used to drop into the bus stop, that's bro. I filmed that line first. But we used to do that.
How is it using that giant camera? How much did that thing
weigh? Holding out of the car in Harlem was hilarious. Holding the beta cam, it was like 25 pounds, and it was awkwardly long, and it was like getting out the window was hard, and then holding out the car window, and you know, I shot Mark a lot from the car, and that footage really got used. It was such bitchin' footage, man. I can't believe these SoCal dudes are so into just like the stunt, the maneuver. The shit we had was so righteous and gritty.
To be, like I said, to be the first person on earth to ever 50-50 grind a handrail, and now I was saying it's like so commonplace, you know.
Beyond commonplace. It's gotten so technical nowadays.
It's so crazy.
How about Broadway and 8th Street? You know all that traffic there?
Fucking A. Broadway and 8th Street it is. Yeah, babe.
All right. Okay, so we are here at Mercer and 8th Street in Greenwich Village, Manhattan, and this is the site of the building plaza area where Mark grinds the first handrail, first 50-50 grind down a handrail. Now, whether or not Mark did one prior to this, you know, it's, who knows, I don't know, gotta ask Mark. But this is where the first 50-50 grind that gets captured on film happens, right here. And this building is called the Georgetown Plaza building. It was built in 1967, and it was built by two guys, the architects, Leo Stillman and John Pruin. Mercer Street actually is named after a general in the Continental Army, American Revolution, a guy named Hugh Mercer. He was a brigadier general, and he was a physician. And the street used to be called Claremont Street, and it got renamed Mercer Street after him. But let's take a look at the stair set. And I just want to point out that the whole plaza got remodeled, but I'll talk about that over there. So yeah, the plaza is, I don't know, with the scaffolding, I don't know what they're doing now. Looks like they're working on the windows or this, you know, whatever. But the plaza got redone, this whole thing got redone, and so it looks different in the footage. And this got redone maybe 15 years ago. I don't know the exact time. But I remember at the time it was like a big deal because they were removing these incredible rails that were pretty low. And in a sense, they never really got skated after a certain time period because rail skating kind of just took off, and it escalated really fast, you know. The other thing is that this plaza and this spot was always a bust because there's a door guy here. So it was kind of like get in and get out. So if you watch in the footage, Mark is skating it at night. Interestingly, there is some phone booths that used to be right here, some public phone booths, and I think they used to be like right around here. And in the footage, I'm pretty certain it's Don Hoffman filming, and you could see Jeremy Henderson and some random guy on a bike. He looks like a bike messenger or something. But the session happens in 1987. Mark comes to New York, stays at Jeremy Henderson's house, and as the story goes, a whole crew of guys are out skating one day. I think Eli is with them, Eli Gessner. I think Felix Arguez is with them, a whole bunch of guys, and they're out skating. Mike Vallely is also there, and Mike Vallely tells this story, Vallely, sorry, I always say Vallely. But Mike Vallely tells this story of mobbing around the streets. They come to this spot.
I saw Mark Gonzales 50-50, the first 50-50 on a handrail. I was there. He made me do it after he did it. I didn't want to do it.
And Mark 50-50 grinds the handrail. As the story goes, according to Mike, he wants to try it as well because he's like, sees Mark do it. And Mike says he's a little afraid to go from the side of the rail. So Mike tries, and I think he does. So he's the second person to grind the handrail. I don't know if in history, but on that day, Mike says he ollies over the top of the handrail and grinds down it. Now the handrail was really short. It was really wide, so it was perfect for 50-50 grinds. And you know, according to that story, they're mobbing around that day. And then apparently what happens is Don comes to town or Don is with Mark during the whole trip. I don't know why it wasn't filmed that day. Probably because there wasn't a filmer there. I don't think Don was mobbing around the streets with that crew of people. But basically they come back at night with the camera, and this is where Mark films the 50-50 grind. He also front boards it. So that was basically right here. The set of stairs is the same. The plaza space is the same. The rail used to basically be right here. This was a little different if I remember correctly. But basically right here is where this whole thing goes down. And this is where the first 50-50 grind captured on film happens. It's the summer of 1987. I think Mondo Vision, I don't know the exact date when Mondo Vision comes out. I remember that it came out a little bit later, and so the time period gets a little skewed. And I think basically what happens is that people are seeing grinds on handrails come out because the footage is staggered, but obviously Mark does it in the summer of '87. He also then goes down to the banks and board slides the 9 stair in 1987, which is unprecedented. It's much bigger rails than anybody's doing at the time. And that Banks rail, even today, even the original Banks rail that's there, was it's nothing to like really play around with, even though kids do play around on 9 stair handrails at this point. But it was a tall rail. It was like a pretty, decent board slide. Even going into the 90s, it was like something that was, a considerable rail to do tricks down. But Mark board slides that. But this right here is where the first 50-50 grind happens in New York City, in Greenwich Village, on 8th Street and Mercer, in the Georgetown Plaza buildings area, whatever, stair set. So that's it. Cool.
This is my high school notebook. Going for the Gons, gonna get him.
Maybe Rocco, maybe Grigley, or maybe Johnny Cop. What the fuck, man?
I don't know. I was a kid back then.
That's amazing.
You filmed this. Going for the Gons.
That's amazing.
We used to call ourselves the New Jersey Skate Corps.
Yeah.
My high school notebook.
That's
back in '85, '86.
That's insane that you still have this.
Yeah.
Open my eyes and start to count and pop those on the shelf. Pop those on the shelf.
Hey, check it out.
Oh, that's how they're getting it.
So anyhow, blah, blah, blah.